made recently a study about the strategies of the Social Democrats from the late 1990s until recent political developments. When we speak about the radical right populism in Denmark, we speak predominantly of the Danish People's Party, of course, which is a kind of textbook when it comes to Scandinavian populism, but not only. So in the past about 2 decades since the rise and consolidation of this party and the political influence that it achieved in 2001, the mainstream party's responses have been different. They have varied from forms of dismissal and ignoring the role played by the Danish People's Party, particularly in the 1990s, to positions that have focused on, first of all, accommodation of the political issues and the political agenda brought in by the Danish People's Party in the 2000s to achieve more recently a convergence towards forms of cooperation, if not co-optation of the party agenda of the Danish People's Party. The Danish People's Party first emerged at the end of the 1990s as an anti-immigration, anti-Islam, strongly nationalist and ethno-nationalist, I would say, and welfare chauvinist party. Since its inception, the party has been overrepresented, particularly among what goes under the white working class. That means both skilled and unskilled workers. Well, this fact of having a success among this group in the Danish society created a challenge to the Social Democrats and particularly to traditional social democratic voting constituencies. At a time in the late 1990s, beginning of the 2000s, where the Social Democrats were decreasing their appeal, their electoral appeal overall, and the traditional class voting was on the downturn. So, I mean, this obliged somehow the Social Democrats in Denmark to adopt strategies on how to confront the Danish People's Party in view of the fact that the party was appealing to. At the end of the 1990s, the idea was predominantly to dismiss the party, not a normal parliamentary actor, but more as a pariah, and later on to also attempt to ignore the party. But things change in relation to some particularly critical junctures, and this was obvious in the 2001. I mean, not only the political system in Denmark changed remarkably in terms of change of positioning in relation to, for example, class voting vis-a-vis issue voting, where issues such as immigration, such as also environmental issue or LGBTQ issues came to the fore, but also in relation to the terrorist attacks. This created a dramatic change in how the political agenda of the electorate relied and considered important or salient some of the issues, and particularly in relation to questions of immigration and in relation to the cultural role of ethnic minorities with another cultural and religious background than the native Danes. So feeling of fear of being socially dispossessed when it comes to status. So all this, let's say, created somehow a change in also the public opinion attitudes towards immigration. And what is remarkable these days is actually that things haven't changed that much in relation to the skeptical positions that we might observe among the public opinion, no matter if actually things have developed in a positive direction in terms of increased integration of ethnic minorities, lower levels of criminality and higher levels of labor participation and so on. But this, let's say, are not probably not enough in order to create a change of attitudes, and particularly to change fears among certain swaths of the population. So if we come to how the Social Democrats have reacted to this, there's been a shift which is remarkable in at least from 2015. This is remarkable also because, I mean, it is something that is promoted by the party, and in particular by the leader of the party, Mette Frederiksen. So, which indicates also a paradigm shift in the way the party has dealt with these issues in earlier years. Underlying the fact that rights were for all as duties were for all, but also putting a lot of effort making clear that equal rights mean equal rights also in terms of non-discrimination, to avoid targeting certain groups as the problem, which is what actually happens right now. The implementation of politics that started under the center-right liberal and conservative coalition governments and continued under the social democratic minority government that promote, for example, stricter rules on asylum, a paradigm shift that means that the asylum doesn't give any certainty as for the permanence of the stay in the country. Also, as for targeting underprivileged and underprivileged, urban neighborhoods with a higher density of ethnic minority as the problem. So really targeting these groups as responsible for their own lack of self-responsible for their own lack of positive integration. Also, several scholarly studies observed that out of the absorption attempts that have happened in 2001 under the liberals and conservatives, we have come towards attempts to contain the populist right-wing wave by simply co-opting some of the same issues, which is problematic in the sense that, I mean, if this choice might regain some of the votes that the Social Democrats lost to the Danish People's Party, it might also as well shed some of the voters that perhaps do not find these positions of the Social Democrats in compliance with the social democratic tradition and let's say spirit. The legitimization strategy, or the accommodation strategy that was adopted by the center-right and by the liberal and conservative minority government in 2001, and which actually continued for more than a decade, changed a lot of the political situation in Denmark, also as relates to the reactions from the civil society. This was made obvious also by, to some extent, the reaction of the traditional media, which, contrary to other countries, such as, for example, Sweden, accepted more the role played by the Danish People's Party without very many controversies or questions about the role of the party, in particular the positions of the party in relation to immigration, Europe, and discrimination and forms of racialization that we have observed. Danish developments as specifically Dane, and also in the understanding of an exceptionalism, perhaps within the Scandinavian context, or at least vis-a-vis the developments that have taken place in Sweden. I mean, this opposition in between politically correct, Swedish way to go about that perhaps to some extent is considered disrespectful of freedom of speech and the freedom of press and so on, contra so the Danish way to go about. This is somehow the understanding that we see in the Danish context that perhaps has been let's say prompted and aggravated also by the way so the Mohammed cartoons in 2005 were first of all understood within the Danish context, which have been reactivated also by recent events in France.